Those who move forward with God have a fear of lost opportunities. There are those who are afraid of what will happen if they decide not to move forward. Caleb and Joshua apparently didn't even consider not moving forward, for they knew that this was what God had been leading them towards this whole time, and that this was what God had called them to do. They knew that this was their destination, the destination that God had in mind when he freed them from Egypt. After all, listen, God hadn't saved his people to just have them wander in a desert. And Caleb and Joshua knew that staying put was to miss out on what God had called them to do, what God had called them to accomplish. Staying put meant missing out on the blessings of God and the fulfillment of his promises to his people. They knew that by not moving forward, the nation would be missing out on the greatest of opportunities, an opportunity that was being given to them by God himself. The other 10, however, had little foresight. They had little foresight when it came to the choice they made. For they could not see that by not moving forward, they were not only missing out on what God had for them to do, but they were bringing themselves under the judgment of God. They were actually rebelling against God. And as you read through the story, you'll find that first of all, the 10 were judged by God, actually put to death. Why? Listen, because God didn't need leaders such as these over his people. That is, leaders who would lead his people into rebellion. Secondly, and more importantly, because they failed to take hold of the opportunity that God had placed before them, the people were left wandering in the desert for the next 40 years. A lost opportunity. Listen, eventually God's plan and purposes for his people would be fulfilled, but it will be fulfilled through a different generation. Numbers 14:31 says, as for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, oh, we can't go in, they're going to get our kids, they're going to steal our kids, they're going to rob us, they're going to, and so forth. As for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected. I mean, think about it. For in the end, the people of this generation were left standing in front of their opportunity and then having to turn around and wander for another 40 years because they failed to understand the importance of God's timing. They had little fear of lost opportunities, thus they failed to move forward with God. Can I say, First Assembly, God forbid that should be us. Oh, these people don't trust me. These people have no faith. These people are unwilling to make a sacrifice to take the risk. Well, I'm just going to have to wait for them to pass. And my promises will be fulfilled in a different generation. And so the question comes, what about us? How does all of this apply to us individually and as a church? But the question is, will you be ready to move forward with God when he calls you, when he calls us to do so?